Are your kids too financially dependent on you? Again, switching that onus. Shane Stewart with DMBA Financial Planning is here. You have 3 rules for us. I do. 3 rules for us or for our kids? How does this work?
Both. It's for everyone, yeah. Okay. And the first rule would be to set clear expectations, clear ground rules on who's going to pay for what. And is the young adult going to be working? I actually strongly recommend that at some form or fashion they work if possible. And then whatever money that they don't have, the parent can then subsidize. And they usually make an agreement on who's going to pay for what.
And that subsidized, I mean, you're starting to get into real world terminology, so this is good for the future.
Exactly, yeah, words like subsidize, who's going to pay for it, right.
Now, young teens, you know, is that probably the best when they get that job?
Yes.
Maybe babysitting or whatever they're doing?
Exactly, that's a great start, because if you try to impose this on them at the age of 19 or 20, it's foreign to them. So if they learn this as a teenager, it's much more helpful.
Now, what specific things do you recommend parents should pay for when when they're at this stage? That's a hard situation.
It is, and so I like to give them a little bit of comfort knowing that they could probably eat and have a place to stay.
Very nice
and so
of you.
It's great for the parent to cover some of those things, or at least contribute to things like food, maybe some clothing, and maybe some lodging, but leave the luxuries and maybe even some of their schooling to the young adult, so that they have some onus in that, have some responsibility.
When it comes, I mean, finances can be a stressful topic in a relationship. It can affect that, let alone with your children. Is it okay to talk to them and say, I can't help you, I can't afford that? Absolutely.
In fact, that's one of the best examples a parent can set, is if they really can't afford to help them with something, to tell them that. And maybe even early on, when they're younger, as teens, to say, here's what I probably can afford for, say, college. You're going to have to figure out the rest. It actually helps the child, sets their expectations, and helps them think about what they need to do to be successful. So it's very wise to tell them, if you can't afford it, tell them that, and tell them early and often.
And with that, is it good to help them set up different accounts? I think that was another tip that you said,
yes,
savings account, maybe a fun account, I don't know.
That's tip number 2, to set up a savings account, set up something for emergencies. Young adults especially, but everyone, are used to going paycheck to paycheck, and if something pops up, for a young adult, an emergency could be that they blew a tire and they need to replace it. Or an opportunity could be that concert they want to go to. But if they don't have the money, they're using credit or they're asking their parents. If they set up a separate, distinct savings account away from their current operating checking account, get their employer to put a small amount in there each paycheck, they're setting themselves up for success in the future.
And with that, they're working on tracking what they're doing, and that's another tip of yours.
That's tip number 3. Tip number 3 is to track those expenses and find out what they really spend. Again, most people don't know the answer to this, what they really spend. So why not have a young adult find that out early on in their life? There's some great tools out there that can be used to track your expenses, find out what's going on. It's more fun to spend when you know where it's going and when you know.
It's always fun to spend, but you're right. And there's a lot of apps, social media apps and things like that.
There are a lot of apps out there, things like mint.com. I like mint.com because I'm lazy and I like it to track it for me.
I am so good with that. Really good tips. And again, getting that onus to your kids, working together in a better future. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
So glad to have you here.